Good evening, friends, and a big welcome to you. This very important session that we are starting. And yes, it could not have been more ironical. We faced problems to go live on YouTube, and the program is all about averting, preventing, and fighting cyber attacks. So it couldn't have been more of a divine intervention or more ironic. So welcome to each one of you. Without further ado, I will just introduce the speakers and also talk about what gets us here today. So we have this page right here. Perfect. So what gets us today here is this very important topic, how to prevent and fight cyber attacks. And for this WAF Gurus Live episode 9, we have a beautiful set of people. We have Mr. Vijay Sethi. He's the CIO, CHRO, and head CSR, Hero MotoCorp. We have Mr. Parna Ghosh. He's the group CIO, Minda, Minda group. Then we have Mr. Narottam Sharma. He's the head information security, business transformation and IT at Sterlite group of technology companies. Then we have Mr. Amit Dubey. He's an award-winning cyber crime investigator. And of course, it's me, Anuj, Guglani, CEO at World.com. So yes, today, right now, we are unable to go live because it's just not connecting. Technology, that's what we are all about. Cyber issues, cyber attacks. So it could not have been more symbolic as I shared. These are our beautiful partners and annual partners at World Auto Forum. We have Gallups, which is one of the leading retail chains in the country for automotive retail. We have Motor Uncle, a group company for the hassled car service customer and a confused car buyer and car customer. Then we have the OEM partner VW, one of the biggest car makers in the world. We have Amplus Solar. They are into solar energy and they are on a mission to convert and transform every automotive dealership, facility for manufacturing, warehouses to solar, switch to solar, and actually make automotive the greenest of all. Then we have the world's #1 lubes company, Shell, who's our annual partner at World Auto Forum. We have K2B. K2B is a leading learning services provider, enterprise learning and training solutions. We have Jubilant Motorworks, which is part of the Jubilant Group, the Hindustan Times Group. And they are also a leading automotive retail chain in India. And of course, our media partners, Autotech Review, the #1 for automotive technology, and The Patriot, a newspaper with a fine lineage. It was started by late freedom fighter, Srimati Aruna Asaf Ali ji, and it is known for its fearless and neutral editorials. So friends, this is what brings us here. So India, friends, actually was the most cyber attacked country last year for 3 months. And overall, we have been second most after US. So we are here to discuss how to prevent and fight cyber attacks, because a lot of our friends in the industry, the legal heads, the CIOs, the MDs, they are all saying that since lockdown, the cyber attacks have gone through the roof when all the employees, teams are working from home, VPN, galore. It's really a big problem. So how do we prevent? That's the basic objective. And how do we fight? When shit hits the fan, when we are in the middle of a cyber attack, how do we control, manage, salvage the situation? That's what it is all about. And these are the points, the 12 points that we are thought we will talk about. Home, I just rattled them out quickly. The work from home is a reality. Digital adoption has seen new levels. Networks, connectivity, devices, software are seeing higher use round the clock at times. This is as per the report that I was quoting last year. As per Subex, the Bangalore-based analytics firms, India was amongst the top most cyber attack country for 3 months and second in total after US. And the countries, the top 10 being US, India, UK, Singapore, Ukraine, UAE, Nigeria, and so forth. And as for the same report, the attacks originate from countries like Slovenia, Ukraine, China, Czech Republic, surprisingly, and Mexico. So friends, most enterprises are taking the best precautions, the best brains, like each one of you is there. So what more can be done, at every level? How do these attackers and hackers manage to outsmart us? What is their motive? What drives them? What's their intention? Why are they doing these attacks? And, sending all the systems into a tailspin. Then what are the precautions and preventive measures we can take at an enterprise, user, society, software, telco, system integrators, server, app store, device makers, IT security firm, government level? So all these being stakeholders, what is the weak link? Where is the loose link? What needs to be tightened up? Then of course we have new things like cyber attacks on connected cars and vehicles, a new reality, how to prevent and fight. And of course, if through this discussion, we can have kind of a survivors and a fighter's guide to a cyber attack. What to do when cyber attacked? How can the law of the land be harnessed to fight, deter, discourage, or possibly even be tweaked? Because at times, in fact, most of the times, technology is a few steps ahead of the law, and law is always in the catch-up mode. And top 2 or 3 things which each person as a user possibly has a fundamental duty to ward off these cyber attacks. So these are the points. So please take a pick of these points. Whichever points are close to your heart, you can take a pick. So with this, I stop the sharing and we begin this discussion. And if we can start with Sethi Saab. So Sethi Saab, your views on these cyber attacks, what should be done? What is being, what is happening? How can we prevent them?
Thanks, Anuj. So we know that we're passing through a very different kind of times. The entire world is passing through COVID-19. We have all these issues. What do you suggest said just now? So I just wanted to maybe start with, if it's okay with you, drawing a parallel between COVID-19 and cybersecurity.
Sure, sir. Sure. Why not?
So see, if you really look at as to if I have to prevent or save myself from COVID-19, what do I do? Number one, I need to put in my own mind that I don't know who's impacted, who's infected today. I need to really take care of myself from anyone and everyone whom I may also think that that person is not infected, but it could be infected. So which is exactly what we need to do when people are working from home, everybody is really working. So we need to first put in our own mindset that we don't know which system is infected, whether it's my mobile phone, whether it is somebody's PC who is actually working over there, or it's the officer PC, we don't know. So we can't be complacent in today's time. Second, and I'll take maybe 2 minutes. What do we do in case of this? Everyone is being told, okay, social distancing, put a mask, immunity, hygiene. I'll just take these 4. This is what all of us are doing today. So same thing, if I just draw a parallel with the cyber attacks, from a social distancing perspective, what am I doing? I'm distancing myself from a possible infected system. So which means that can I, for example, use VPNs every time? That there is no connection between what I do and my other system is. So while each one of us would have our own technologies to save ourselves, but can we ensure that any entry that I'm giving to my systems from work from home or from either place, at least a basic VPN has to be there. From mask perspective, exactly the same thing is, which is the very first level of protections, all sorts of technologies, IDS, IPS, firewall, all that. I'm not getting into details of that, but that's what each one of us has to do. But third, which is equally important, from a cyber security perspective, what is immunity, what is hygiene? Of course, one can get into cyber hygiene and all sorts of details. I can get into those details. But most importantly, who is ensuring that entire thing? It is our end users. It's those people who are really using the systems. So can we ensure that our people part, the process part, both these are so strong that even if there are attacks, my own systems are immune, my own people are immune, all the people who are using, they know that if there's a mail, which a phishing mail comes up which says that can I give you the latest statistics on COVID, or can I really tell you as to what happened in a lockdown condition or a containment zone over here? Who knows that moment you click over there, there's actually a phishing mail over there, or it could be picking up some data or infecting your system. So that is where your own immunity system, which is in terms of educating all the users and telling them, okay, don't get into this. These are the strict do's and strict do nots. So while in regular times, all of us do whatever we need to do to keep ourselves healthy. But when times are like this, all of us are taking extra precautions, distancing, mask, this, that. Similarly, from a cyber perspective, we need to, while we take all the basic precautions in terms of people, process, technology, but this is a time we really need to ensure that each one of them is really doubled up. Our efforts, especially from the process and the people part, which in this time is the most weakest link in the entire thing, is taken care. And Also that VPN piece, especially, that's very, very important. So we need to ensure that we really take all those measures. So I'll just stop here and get back to you.
Okay, so Sethi sir, that's a very fair parallel that you have drawn. Just like social distancing, just like immunity. So we also have to, of course, at the same time, empower our people, our users, our employees, so that their immunity gets enhanced. One is through do's and don'ts, and education that you should not click on, say, a possible malicious or a ransomware email. At the same time, if we can make our systems more intuitive, that such mails get blocked, because what we
That's
saw.
where technology plays. That's where technology plays a huge role. So we need to ensure that I started VPN as an example, but there's to so in today's time, for example, there are a huge amount of artificial intelligence-based systems which can really help you in doing that. You're right.
Great, great. So switching our gears, so coming to Parna. So Parna, we just saw in one of the global automotive behemoths, we just saw a cyber attack, a parallel cyber attack worldwide. A company which has more than 40 different divisions, a company which employs close to 2.5 lakh employees, 250,000 people around the world. In India also, their one of the divisions got affected. In the UK, their factory and operation got affected. In the US, they got affected. It was all parallel, and it was decimated. So, what do you feel leads to things like these, and how should it be managed at that time when it's on? Another something on that.
Yeah, yeah. Good evening, all of you. So I believe what Vijay just now mentioned is about the basic hygiene maintenance. That's the most important part. Whether you are working in an enterprise or working from home or working for a large conglomerate which has multi-country, multi-geography, settlements or something like that. So I think I was just going through some of the data points, before coming to the part which is the snake ransomware you were trying to mention. I'll just, I was looking at Google obviously before this session and trying to find out what kind of cyber attacks are happening during this COVID, especially this COVID-19 times, last 2-3 months. So the attacks have actually, increased around 5 times as per WHO. So WHO, around 260 sites have been created with a replica of WHO. So those are not exactly WHO; they are something different, but looks like WHO or some malicious sites, which people are trying to attract the users and making them victims. Then there is some KPMG report which is talking about 400 times of increase in cyber attacks, 220 times of increase in spams, and 260% the malicious sites have come up this time. So that means if earlier it was around one malicious site, now it is 260 times malicious sites have come up in the entire web world. Coming back to the point of the enterprise attacks or stuff like that, see, ransomware is something which tries to find out the vulnerabilities at a user level. It can be through a mail traffic, it can be through a data traffic, it can be through a data transfer protocol, something you are using. It can be through your mobile phone itself. I mean one can't prevent that. Now the issue is what level and how much you can patch up. You can patch up your servers, you can patch up your desktops or laptops, you can still patch up the nowadays the mobile devices or the iPads or the tablets. But at the same time, user awareness, user what link to click, what link not to click. Then one of the most important part is there are these homograph attacks happening. Homographs means like lookalike sites. It's looking like unominda.com. Actually, it is not unominda.com, it is unomind.com. So A is missing, but by mistake you may click there, and then you think I am clicking to the right genuine site, but you land up into a malicious site, and then you save your credentials and fall into trap. So I think there are multiple types of attacks happening. Awareness at each and every level of user will be not be that easy, because you may communicate through mails or communicate through your sessions or trainings or technical sessions, but at the end of the day, how many people you can cover, what is the awareness in level you have. And when people have around 200 plus 200 lakhs 200,000 employees worldwide, till what mile you can reach. The last mile reach is also extremely important. So how many people you have covered in those trainings, where to click, where not to click. See, we are dealing around 4,000 users in our group, but still these 4,000 users are not at all level. All the users are not at the same level of communication or awareness. So in that case, what happens, if a person by mistake clicks a malicious link, and he attracts or she attracts the infection into his system, it will automatically flow. I am giving my example. 2 months back, my system got infected through a spam, and it started deleting my inbox mails.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Fortunately, that was not a big problem, because I was able to recover everything in some few minutes, because I understood the problem. I blocked that site, but it happened with me itself. So I mean, forget about the users who are sitting at home using, many times they are using their personal devices, personal laptops. In fact, during COVID, we have also allowed many people to work from home using their so we named it UIOD. Earlier it was BYOD, now it is use your own device from home. You can't have 100% people working on official devices from home. That kind of setup we don't have, being a manufacturing organization, since 70% people are working from manufacturing area. So coming back to the point, when you have this kind of diverse scenarios across the globe, 100% prevention is absolutely not possible. And I don't know, I will be keen to listen to other panelists here, if it is really possible or not. But then at the same time, a certain portion of awareness can definitely be created. Training should be conducted. I mean, we have also sent so many mailers, so many awareness sessions, we have created trainings, but still there will be gaps and loopholes. I think that's the last mile gaps we always have in our environment, and those actually affect us or impact us on a longer run.
Great. So it's very shocking to know that Panada is his own computer and system got hacked and infected, and of course he had to take that corrective action. So switching gears, coming to Mr. Sharma. So what is the motivation? What motivates and drives these hackers and attackers? Yes, one of course can be money when there's a phishing thing, but so why would anyone attack a huge automotive behemoth across the world? Would they really be able to earn money or extract money or some information? So, Mr. Sharma, you have been leading this information security piece in your organization. What drives them? What do they thrive on? And how do we avert such attacks? You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Sharma.
Yeah. So thanks for Vijay and Parna to set the context, and thanks to Anuj you to bringing into the context of the attacker mindset. It's a tough question to answer because largely we don't meet those people and don't know their mindset, that what they do and why they do. It is exactly the same way that if I draw a parallel, that why somebody go and do a attack to individual, or maybe having a pocket snatching or something, because sometimes it is a need of money, sometimes it is psycho mindset. So this is really a tough question. But let me tell you that one thing which I feel, there are two ways to look at it. One is that where people look to be having a targeted attacks, right? And the another is an experimental attack. If I just put this analogy, and this is my own thought process, just instantly built. Targeted attacks are where you are actually looking to have a motive, either because of some competitors are probably funding the money to you, or maybe some countries want to get some information about some particular company or some particular country, and they fund and they organize such kind of attacks. So that is one area where it is absolutely targeted to the company or to the individual. The another side is when it comes to be an experimental, or probably person is exploring. Let's say, for example, if I talk about in last 6 months, if you look at the attack on the cloud infrastructure, largely the IaaS, which is like Azure, Microsoft, and other, where you take a server as a rare metal virtual box from one of the OEM, and you think that you have taken a virtual machine from Azure or AWS and it is 100% secure, while it is absolutely not true, because they just give you the machine balance, controls, and everything you need to put in. So generally people try to flash such kind of attacks, and they see that what data can they be picked up, and then what they do, they go back to Google and try to search those data and see whether it is a potential case of a ransom or something, and try to explore the money out of it. So there are multiple ways. One is the competitors might try. The another thing, some intended countries want to do it. So when you were talking about in the beginning that these are the 5-6 countries, so if you talk about those countries, we all know the intent what they're trying to do. So that is an intended one. Third is the exploration, that people try to explore, like, can I take out something out of it, or I can disturb the business of someone, right? So these are the 3-4 categories which I feel are the main reasons for people to try. And fourth, which is again a analogy, that when you build the defense, then definitely there is a defense counter. So people want to see if somebody is saying, so, one more thing which I generally say, as we used to say in past, that try to keep yourself low rather than high when you implement something, that I have done the best and nobody can attack me. So when you come in the social media with all these things, that those people think it will be a challenge and they say, let me try whether I can do it or not. So whatever we put a control or not, we have to ensure. So that's what I feel on that area. But if you allow me, and if you have time for 2 minutes to talk about the earlier aspect, then I just want to put some context on that,
Sure,
if that
sure.
is permissible at this stage.
Sure. So that's a very interesting point, Mr. Sharma, what you said that. So whenever you have implemented something in cybersecurity, never tell your marketing guys to promote it. Otherwise, somebody will take it as a challenge.
Because, this is not something. So you tell me one thing, that you buy a locker in a bank. Do you go and flash it out in the market that I have a locker in Falana, or, in a particular bank, and you just keep it secure? So the same applies out here, because ultimately your data is something which is your asset, right? And you should ensure that you don't talk about your defenses. You might talk about the threats, what are coming, how you are going to prevent that, but let's not talk about that what you have implemented, which is working on.
Yeah, I'll give an example, Anuj. When I joined our organization, and our data center is one of the complexes. I believe you know or not, it's in Manesar itself. And one day I went to the location and I saw there is written that SAP data center as a placard, or as a note in the notice. So I asked, what is this? So there was, sir, there is a data center in the first floor and we have just mentioned it here so that people, when the auditor comes, he knows where to go and where not to go. I mean, in a data center you must not show where is the data center itself. You should say there is nothing, it's just a room, we don't know. So I mean, this is very important what Narottam just shared. Yeah.
True.
I come back to the first question. Thanks, Parna. If I come back to the first point what you raised, and thank you, Vijayji, that putting this analogy to COVID to security, I think this is all basic, that hygiene, and you have to ensure distancing. And as I was saying, don't flashing about the work what you have done. What has changed? The change has happened that earlier, when we used to talk about before COVID, 90% of the company used to work on securing their network and perimeter, because most of the people used to work within the company and they used to go off office post 6 or 7, where they largely don't used to open their laptops. Your threat vector was very small. But if you look at it in today's scenario, your 90% workforce is working from home. One is that you have some applications which are internal application developed in your network where you have to give access, where Mr. Vijay was talking about having a VPN access so that you can isolate people to go to a targeted machine rather than open a complete network for them. Another side is that largely you're on cloud these days. You have Microsoft or AWS cloud applications which you're accessing. Then you have SaaS-based applications which you have. Now that fact, what I feel is something which is, see, rest everything everyone will do, right? We all know what we need to do. Even in the VPN, if we talk about, there's an evolution which has come where people are talking about not having a VPN connection, have a zero trust network. So what zero trust network means? The VPN still is a hackable aspect because given the SSL and everything. Zero trust network help you to identify the individual. And in the current scenario, when you are in distributed environment, your identity matters. It is not which device and from where you are coming. If your identity is known and your identity is monitored, then you can help to secure your system at a large scale. Second aspect, which I don't have an answer, but I have a question which I personally feel, and I think OEMs needs to help us on that side, is around when you are working from home, you are securing your endpoint, you are securing everything, but as UID, I don't know what partners had, use your own device. The challenge is, how do you ensure your network is ensured by firewall, IPS, IDS, everything? How do you ensure the home Wi-Fi to try to bring the compliances and security, which at least ensure that largely the infection which can come from an open internet can be blocked? So that is one area where we need to think.
True.
Third aspect, which
that's a very important point.
Yeah, the third aspect which I personally want to share out here is, when we did our security transformation, one thing we analyzed that what are our risks. Basis those risks, what are the threat vectors? Basis those threat vectors, what are the current threat in the industry and how they apply to us? But the challenge was, how do you keep the flexibility of business operation and at the same time secure? Because that is the main motive. And when we realized and when we came to a level, we realized that there are 28 to 29 applications or tool set we need to buy to do so. Then we thought, why we will not go that route? We will look for platforms. And platforms helps you to scale faster. They give you more capabilities on the less number of applications to install, and then that to prioritize on the cloud. So just to share with you all, what we did, we identified endpoint, we identified network, we identified cloud, and we identified our applications, and we went to 4 to 5 platforms. And believe me, all these 5 platforms are giving us 28 capabilities to work on. And it is so easy that when we recently got something where we wanted to extend, we simply, the feature was there. We just enabled the feature with some policies, and it helped us to roll out across the company in seconds. So my view is that we have to look for the platforms now, because the tool set approach is a convention, it is gone. So that's what I feel we should.
Okay, fair enough, Mr. Sharma. Those are very important and meaningful points, very relevant. In fact, what really struck me was, when you were talking about, I might have the best firewall, I might have the best protection, best networks, best VPNs, or even better systems. But if all is being accessed on a home Wi-Fi, in fact, switching gears and going to Amit Bhai, in fact, I remember Amit Bhai had mentioned one of our earlier sessions that the easiest way to, for someone to hack is, suppose I'm sitting in Hotel Taj and I open up my laptop to work and I start scanning the Wi-Fi's and I see Hotel Taj 5-7 Wi-Fi's. Suppose a guest in the adjacent room has opened up his Wi-Fi and he has named it Hotel Taj, and I go to that network, so I'm totally vulnerable. And that happens all the time. So such stories and more stories. So coming to Amit Bhai. So Amit Bhai, you have been investigating cyber crimes for a while now. You are a celebrated, award-winning cyber crime investigator. The various state polices of different states take your help. In fact, as I was given to understand, right now you were busy in your prior session before this was with one of the police force. So what do you feel, number one, where somewhere we are going wrong when it comes to enterprise cybersecurity? And number two, what are the basic 2-3 things that we need to be careful of as for prevention? If you can, delve on both the aspects.
Thank you, Anuj. First of all, thanks for bringing this interesting topic on the floor, and really thankful to other speakers who have actually given the perspective from different angles, Mr. Sethi and Mr. Ghosh, and then Mr. Sharma. I'm bringing a different government aspect into this, because these are the infrastructure, like critical infrastructure, that those are owned by government, are most critical now and most vulnerable. Because of the obvious reasons, we have some disturbances on border, and there are some very good friendly neighbors who are not happy with our systems, and they are continuously attacking us. Yesterday, I was discussing and I found one IB alert. I think you might be now aware about this IB alert, which has been given to railway. And these Chinese hackers try to hack this railway communication system. And this was really a very serious attack, because it was done by an APT-36. So I'll just share with you what is this APT. Advanced persistent threats are those threats. Those are, as you asked for the motivation, and they don't have a motivation for money or any such particular data that they are interested into. What their sole motive is to be there for all the time and keep leaking the information. And it should be a persistent thing. So if they have left a backdoor in our railway communication system, and they can keep on getting this information, like the movement of our troops and platoon and defense movement and the special trains that are being running at this time, they can really do different, they can use this information against us when they are planning something on border. So that's why there are different kind of hackers, and they have different motivations. For corporate, there could be money could be one motivation, but then even this money can come from different angles. They can't directly ask this money from you, but they can sell your data on dark web. I was just showing, I was just giving this training on dark web to this police department. And while every time I give this training, I explore some real links. And I found, like, just last week, I think there are 3 to 4 companies, Indian companies, their entire database is available on dark web. And it was leaked last week. I would not name those companies because
sure.
It would not be good. But then I was surprised. I said, oh, this has come last week only. It is happening so fast, so frequently, and then we are not ready, and we are not able to accept it. Most of the time, when this maze attack happened on Cognizant, or when MD Labs got attacked by Ruit. All these ransomwares, they are a different kind of ransomware. They steal your data, they take a copy of your data, and then they threaten you that, boss, if you want key, you pay us this much. Otherwise, we will publish this data on dark.
So it's a very good point, Amit bhai, you brought up this point. So when a company faces this situation from a hacker that I have this sensitive information about you with me, so it's just like a blackmail extortion. You know, if in this much time you don't do this for me, I will leak it to this authority or this department or this country. What should be the modus operandi? How should one manage this kind of a threat?
So first of all, see the consequences, because why we are afraid of this information to be leaked, because nobody accepts it. 2 weeks back, Zoom Card's entire database was leaked, and it was available. And I was in discussion with Zoom Card CEO as well. I was guiding him. The challenge is the very first reaction that we see from every such person is like, oh, there's no data. Of course, because there are GDPR guidelines, there are different compliance issues, and once we accept it, we are liable to pay that penalty, because that is something which will open a door of Pandora's questions, and we need to answer them, and how it happened, what was the vulnerability, whether it was a human mistake, whether it was a technical error. So all these things will be discussed in open, which is a bigger issue. What I think Mr. Sharma has also mentioned, that we never want to discuss these things in open, because then they will open other vulnerabilities. So the challenges is like, if it is happening, how to take care of it, how to solve this issue. The very first thing is, especially for ransomware, because this point I have asked for ransomware only, especially for ransomware, there are no 100% guaranteed solution on ransom. We need to accept this. The only thing we can do, we can keep our backups, and we can keep ensuring this, like we have some real-time backup, which is like there's no minimal gap between the backup and the status that we have right now. So if anything happens, we can at least revoke the status through our backups. This is the only thing which we should do, and I would suggest to, because every day new kind of ransomwares are coming, and there are keys available for those ransomwares. Those are never being used now. Nobody using those ransomwares. So we have keys and we have open information available for those ransomwares. But then the possibility that we'll get that ransomware is very low. Every time they're coming up with new sort of attack vectors. And that is the real challenge. So the only thing is which can save us is through having a backup. Second, how these attacks are getting success, because they are exploiting human vulnerability, as Mr. Sethi said in beginning, and that is true. That is in fact 100% true. That almost 70 to 75% attack, those are successful today. They are happening because of a human mistake, and human vulnerabilities we never talk about. So I always take this reference from Bhagavad Gita, that here it is written like, each human has 5 vulnerabilities. Every human: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Bhay, Ahankar. And this attacker is just exploiting that.
Well said.
Anger, greed, ego, and your fear. These are the 5 things that are getting exploited. If you have not trained your employees to balance these things, they'll be eventually exploited. That is the problem. We are finding the solution in technical world, while the solution is actually in spiritual world. Somewhere we need to understand this fact. You could be having all those systems which Mr. Sethi has said, IPS, IDS 5 or whatever. But then if I have a human vulnerability and my attacker knows about it because of my social media presence, that I'm an egoistic person, I will definitely go for this. I will definitely read this material. I definitely click on this. Or I feel like I know everything, so I'm behaving like this. He will exploit that. He will just send me, like, he will push my ego a little bit. You are a hero, like this.
Fair enough.
And I'll do that mistake and I'll be gone. So these are the things I think we need to start thinking about it.
So that's a very valid point, Amit bhai, and a very good inspiration from our Bhagavad Gita. But Amit bhai, coming back to the basic point, when one faces this threat, that I have this data and I will leak it and I need this, what should be done in this situation? Should one immediately call the cyber police, cyber wing, or in some cases, someone might say, hey, if I go to police, it might, compromise my information, so I better pay up. What should be done in this circumstance?
So the very first reaction is to inform CERT. So we have a very, very official body which is created by Government of India, a Center of Advanced Emergency Response Team, which is only for this purpose. So you need to inform them, and they'll give you the possible solution as well, and they'll take care of it from their end. Because if there are any such similar incident possible in any other organization, they have to inform to other such organizations as well. So they will manage it from either side. And especially it will happen now when Chinese attackers are attacking, they are not thinking like whether it is a Hero or Maruti or whatever manufacturing company. For them, any company which is in India is of equal importance for them. So they can apply same attack vectors to each one of them. So that is something which, if somebody is actually facing some attack and they inform CERT, they can quickly release a advisory for other such companies who are supposed to have similar vulnerability and can be exploited. That is one thing. Second thing, that will help you to keep your stand legally correct.
Okay.
Because you are not hiding it and you are informing it. And everybody knows that even if you are having all standard security compliances and auditing it frequently, there is a finite probability that you may face such attack, and there is no harm accepting it, because that will at least save you from legal consequences. And otherwise there will be unnecessary discussions. So you have to accept it. And then second thing, technically how we can recover it quickly, that everybody knows, I'm sure, like first of all, like where this attack happened, remove those network or components from other network compliances, because normally that is something which we delay and it gets spread during that time. So these are the first thing, few steps which has in cyber hygiene, that how should we minimize the risk of any such attack by ensuring these 4-5 steps quickly whenever we are facing such attack.
Amit bhai, this gets us to a very important question. US is the most cyber attack country in the world because it's a superpower, developed, we can go on. Why does India come at the second slot? Why? What does the entire world have with India?
If I'll give you a footprint, I was mentioning about advanced persistent threats. These APT groups are actually state-sponsored groups. They are funded by respective government body. China has most number of APT groups. APT 1 to 9 to 10, all 10 are from China. Then APT 30, 40, 39, 36, all these are from China. And then there are APT, Iranian APTs. Then there are Turkish APTs, Russian APTs. But majority of them are from China. A majority of them are from China, and they are continuously funded by state government, like their government. And their target is either US or India. So that's why most of us are facing the similar consequences.
Even that's majority made in China. Okay, so switching gears now, coming to Sethi Saab. Sethi Saab, you just heard what Amit bhai had to share on why we are so vulnerable, why we are being attacked so much. So of course, I will not ask you to talk about all the precautions that you might have taken for the simple reason that we need to be a little confidential about that. But when it comes to a user, वो 2-3 क्या चीजें हैं which every user should be mindful, to avoid these attacks?
See, I really like the way Amit explained it. I think it's brilliant, Amit. That I think that you explained, fantastic. So I'll just put it in very simple lines. If you can just remember one line, and I like a book by a guy called Andy Grove. It's nothing to do with cybersecurity at all. It's a normal business book. And he was the CEO of Intel, and he's one of the most respected CEOs globally. And he wrote maybe 20 years back, 25 years back. I don't even remember when he wrote that, and I've read it 50 times. So the book's title is Only Paranoid Survive. I think if each company has to ensure that their system is secure, the employees have to be paranoid from a cybersecurity. They cannot be complacent. That's exactly the point which Narottam was saying, Amit was saying, Parna to some extent also said this. I think moment that ego comes in, moment that complacency comes in. So all the employees need to, and that's the role that organization has to ensure, that you need to continuously inform people that there are vulnerabilities around. You need to be very, very secure, because point that Amit said 70%, 80%, whatever number of attacks, but that's the core reason where the attacks are coming. It's technology is there, but it's the people vulnerability which is there. So that's what we need to tackle at all times. And reality is, inadvertently, those guys who think they are smart, the guys who think that they know everything about systems, there are times that they tend to get kind of complacent. And that's the most vulnerable piece in most of the organizations. I would always think that maybe my mobile is secure, mera kya hoga, and things like that. Whereas, how many of us really put up antivirus on their mobile? Most of them think, no, there's nothing, why should I be bothered? But we are actually accessing most of our systems from office from a mobile phone. So similarly, I think that's where it's really important that companies focus on user awareness a lot. And that's also a most neglected area of focus for cybersecurity experts, because most of the cybersecurity experts really get into it. Experts mean people like all of us who are professionals. Experts may not be the right word. They first focus on ensuring that you have all sorts of technologies. Then they say, do I have all sorts of certifications, ISO, this, that. There's a process part. So technology comes, process comes, people are left behind, and you give only 5%, 1% importance. Because that's the 70, 80% of what you need to give importance.
Well said. So we should actually swap and warp the importance priority on.
That's why it's said people, process, technology. It is not never said technology, process, people.
Well said, well said. So Sethi sir, this is about the people and people being the centerpiece. So Parna, when now we also have this another challenge that the connected vehicles are also getting hacked. So just imagine, if, any of these Ola or Uber vehicles, say,
sorry, I'll just Anuj say it's not a challenge. That's expected. That's a computer. At the end of the day, it's a computer. Think from that perspective.
Also, a couple of researchers have said that, the ECU which was there in the vehicle, that ECU was never supposed to be connected to the cloud. It was just an embedded system which was supposed to be there in the center console, under the driver's console. Suddenly, when it is connected to the cloud, and no matter how much security you might have, but if the access network is not secure, and once the hackers reach the ECU, everything is exposed. So, and the ECU security is not that high a priority, because the automotive R&D guys would not allow the network engineers to get into the ECU. They'll say, hey, this is my territory, this is my domain. You don't know anything about this. So this internal conflict and this leading to these, security hacks. What can be done about this?
See, Anuj, if you remember, last 2 years, there were a few hacking events happened on German cars, in Germany related with autonomous car. Also in US, a few things happened like that. And the cars were actually completely stopped by the hackers from the remote location, and they were not able to start it as long as they completely rebooted the whole thing. And as Vijay was mentioning, it's a computer. So you have to maintain the basic things. So I think in the beginning, Vijay was mentioning about VPN connection while working from home, when you're connecting to your remote servers in the office. Same thing applies when you have a ECU system and you connect it to the cloud, because you need cloud. Without cloud, today you cannot survive. You cannot have everything on the enterprise, data center. So when you are in cloud, how to connect the sessions remotely through secured network, through secured connections, through secured tunnels, that is the key to success. Otherwise, what will happen tomorrow is there are hackers sitting in many locations. They are not there to just stop your car. They want to stop your engine in such a manner so that you have to pay ransomware, and then only you can start your car. The thing which is happening for the enterprise users. And another thing I think which Amit was sharing regarding the attacks which happens, why India? I mean, India is not that, it's not number 1 or 2 in the economic scenario at this point. It's around 6 or 8 or something like that. But why India? The reason behind is Indian users are highly vulnerable. You see how many fraud attacks happen to the Indian users, the banking frauds, or the small phishing frauds are these are happening. Phishing attacks are happening. The reason is that that same 5 mantras of Gita. Calm will be one of the main things. The greed for more, and so we see lottery news as many of our friends share in WhatsApp. Oh, there is a lottery from Hero. They are giving 500 two-wheelers free. Honda is giving something, or Maruti is giving something. I say immediately, don't open this also. If you open also, your system may get infected. So the point is here is greed, and the personal hygiene matter is extremely weak in this country. So I mean, today we don't have autonomous cars. Tomorrow we have autonomous cars here. Tomorrow we have autonomous, two-wheelers also. Two-wheelers also getting into computers. I think Vijay knows very well. They have the R&D plan in place. In next 5 to 6 years, most of the parts will be controlled by the computer system in a two-wheeler as well. So I mean, the attacks will increase highly. And Siyama and ACMA had did a joint study in terms of with A.T. Kearney, I think 1 year back. And out of these 11 technologies which will impact the businesses, one very important factor was cyber security. I think cyber security has to be there in a very strong way. And in a country like us, also I think I don't completely agree with what Amit was sharing. We have certain in place, but like I'll give an example. We get wire transfer products. I think WTF, you know what is that? It's basically, somebody sends you a mail and it's written in the below NK Minda, and then it asks you to transfer some money to some XYZ in some location with the bank account details with NEFT. Now, these attacks have happened, at least 10 attacks have happened, and we have requested our Sanjay Behal is there. I don't want to blame him, but the point is, he's a director general right now. The problem is not certain because they are catering to so many people, government, they are institutions, academicians. I think it's not easy for them to manage. Then what happens is when we approach, they simply say, okay, we have registered your case. Well, please go to the local police station and file an FIR. And so that takes a lot of time. Then the local police is not aware of the sections, they don't have the equipments, the right people to do the scanning, and many times things just go west. So my point is, if you look at how Russia or this Israel and China, they have a country perimeter also, very highly secured country perimeter, which we don't have. I mean, I discuss with these biggies like Airtels or Vodafones or all the people who are providing internet to us. So this country perimeter will actually scan all the traffics coming in and going out, while from the country internet. So I'm talking about when you are in the www scenarios, scans everything in and out, and then only allows traffic. So either we have that or we have a scanning system, proper cyber cell system who can really work upon that. This is point number one. Point number two is the ISPs also need to really strengthen up their systems so that the attacks actually really not penetrated to the organizations or the end users like us who may be affected directly. Third is the personal hygiene, which can be on the mobile phone or the laptop. I think in all of five of us, I mean, hardly one or two guys will be having a mobile, antivirus. I mean, we
Antivirus.
don't we don't install. It's a basic requirement, but we don't install just because of what the fact is it's not a it's not an awareness, it's basically an awareness issue. So I think that's one of the major thing. I think this if I can work on these three areas, one is the country perimeter, firewall, or I can say a perimeter proper cyber security system. Then the ISPs also do certain kind of scanning and drops you the packets, at least looking at certain things. I mean, it's a long wish, but it should be happening like that as Israel has done. And third is the at the end user side, which can be your enterprise perimeter, your users, your devices, your laptops, your desktops. I think if we can look at these three stages, may not be today, but in next 5 years, 4 years, 5 years time, I think we will be in a much secured
Sure.
country in terms of cyber.
Sure enough, that's a pretty holistic ringside view, Parna, that you have shared with us, and also brought all the other stakeholders like the ISPs into the picture, and of course something on the connected vehicle that you mentioned. So, getting again Mr. Sharma back in the conversation. In fact, Mr. Sharma and I were having a small little discussion just after lunch, and he mentioned that how cyber security needs to be not just pitched to the board, but also in the true letter and spirit should be implemented and internalized as a business enabler and as a tenet for business transformation. So that gets a acceptance by the board. Second, you are part of the business cycle, so it's not taken as a cost, it is taken as an investment. So Mr. Sharma, if you would like to share some success story or some nice cases on that.
I think, thanks, Anuj, for this question. I think there's a great insights which we got from Vijay, Amit, and Amrit and Parna on all the aspects. On this aspect, if you look at the world is changing now. If you look at any board report, any management annual report, any company annual report, you will find cybersecurity as one of the major risks. And people have start at least bringing it to that level where they start mentioning into their annual report. So one thing which is happening that at least people have start talking it in board or probably in the boardroom. Now, if not with the board directors, but still, if you look at when it comes to investment, and I'm not going to blame it to the people who have to approve it. I think it is more on the side of the people that they are not able to showcase this in a business term. They still go with the simple logic of that I need this 20 laundry list of inventory which I need to implement and we will be secure. So I think the approach which I personally feel should be taken is that, see, there are threats across. If you talk about banking, if you talk about manufacturing, if you talk about services or any other organization, threat vectors, if not 100%, but at least 60-70% are different. The risk assessment around that is different for everyone. So you have to see that what is your main risk, how could business impact they can have on your system from a business continuity, business disruption, or maybe from a brand reputation and other aspect, and convert that into some kind of a business value, and then associate your approach that this is the risk which identified, these are the things what I need to do, and this is the impact it could have on a business in terms of dollar, in terms of brand, in terms of anything, and present your case. And then second is look the viability, that how do you bring the value out of it. You know, once you implement, people generally don't showcase the value what they brought. So let's say, for example, if I share in one of the cases, अभी अमित जब APT की बात कर रहे थे, there are so many intelligent platform comes today. They tell you that what kind of attack targets you are getting, from where they are coming, how many you have blocked, what impact it could have had, how many companies across the globe probably would have impacted due to this, but we have been saved. And agar ye hota, to this could have been a problem. You have to tell them that after implementing these things, while we are not 100% secure, but the result is coming out of the tools and technologies and the platform what we have implemented. Second aspect which I want to talk about, and this is something again goes to user awareness. See, when you talk about user, you don't talk about the people on shop floor. User means from a CEO to everyone till, from chairman to the last man on the ground. And the awareness is an issue at that level as well. And again, it comes back to us, onus on us, that how do we make them aware that why it is important and what we need to do. So, and third is, while you implement all technology, Anuj, but that is not done. That I think there are so many big four, there are many other companies you call, if Mr. Vijay or Parna call tomorrow that I need to have cybersecurity transformation, I think there will be a line and he need to spend 3 days to just finish the appointment. So everyone is full of knowledge. The point is that technology is one side, but if I look at even today, I was reading it, that in 2021, there will be a $6 trillion US investment which will happen in security. But cyber security across the globe. But where it will happen, out of which largely it will happen in implementing the platform and technologies and prevention. So let me put the word prevention. But if you look at, all preventions are fine, but you can't still stop the attacks. They will continue. And the major portion of your chunk of budget should also go into incident response. How do you plan for that? In case something happen, how will you respond to it? And that's one area where people are not having a focus, but ideally we should have some focus to have some great expert or companies or probably the people who can help into response. That is one area where we should start having a focus around.
Great, fair enough. So that's a very good perspective, Mr. Sharma, you shared on showing the value. Because when we are taking so much of money from the board, from the MD and putting for cybersecurity, it's prudent to show that where that money went and how that money, that investment has delivered back. So we are just about...
One thing which I just want to add, Anuj, sorry I forgot when you talk about CEO. See, I think both of my friends will also equate that these days, when you are working in a group, I think largely it is coming into the KRA of CFO and CEO on the compliances and where you get audited and you get rating and a score on that. And that is directly aligned to their health of the organization. So good way that at our place, it is cybersecurity is part of the rating level within the group to us from Vedanta, where they come and audit us every year. While our strategy was not related to audit, but this is also one of the signifies area that, if you continuously coming at the lower side of this in the group, then, it doesn't look like good at every level, and CFO and CEO themselves face a lot of challenges from board. But it has to be part of their KRA as well if you really want to have it. If it is not there, then you may have an impact.
Absolutely, it always helps.
Also, Anuj, as per the Companies Act to 2013 is concerned, you need to qualify, the auditor have to qualify you as a cybersecurity secured organization when the balance sheet is signed. And I think one thing Narottam just forgot to mention maybe in his discussion, that in the new Data Protection Act, which is going to come up I don't know whether monsoon session of parliament or maybe next to next to that. Okay, so that will also have to have a qualification in the balance sheet itself. If you don't qualify on data security, you're not able to protect the information, and it is as at par with GDPR. So let's be very clear about the government's intention is good, but my point was more on the physical, part of the or the management part of the security. Yeah.
See, the intentions are
You
all
are right. The way we have this regulatory compliances, and you need to ensure they are there. ITGC audit, which happens. Cyber is getting into the same side that the balance sheet will not be signed by the auditor if you are not compliant to those areas. So that has started, but I think next year it will be on top.
See, the intentions are always noble in our country. If you see the environment law, when I was studying law, if you read the environment law of India, it's nothing but all international UN treaties which are ratified. That is our environment law. So if you read our environment law, you'll feel, hey, it's the best the world has to offer. It should be like Switzerland everywhere, but it is not. So we might have a law which is, even higher than GDPR, but what is the enforcement at ground level? If my car gets hacked and I go to the local police station and I tell the investigation officer, मेरी गाड़ी hack हो गई, मैं कहा, ये क्या होता है भाई? So it has to be.
It's like Vijay's companies having two-wheelers which can run 100 km/h, but you don't have the roads to run. So that's the problem. You have to run at 40 or 45 in the city road. So that's the fallacy of the situation.
Another point is the viability. That as you rightly said, the best environment policy and guideline what we have. Same applies to the data protection. That you have taken all the standard of the world, and then you are having the best one coming out, but what is the viability and practicality when it comes to country and the skills to do so, and how you are going to do it? So that is another area of concern.
So Amit Bhai, we just about to wrap up this conversation. Last few comments from Amit Bhai and from Sethi Saab. So when we talk about the best laws in the world, what do we say about the best enforcement? And why we ask you, Amit Bhai, because you work day in and day out with the police forces, and I'm sure they are also under a lot of pressure. But where do you see it on the ground, cybersecurity and fighting cyber attacks?
I think Mr. Ghosh has pointed it briefly, hinted to that weakness, because see, government is government, and in a country like India, it takes lots of time to get these things done with that efficiency. Laws are there. We have brilliant laws. And if I'll tell you, just if somebody is stalking you, and somebody is sending you frequent requests on Facebook and you are not interested, that itself can lead that person to have a 3 years of jail and 354D. So 666C, D, and 354D, these are the clear-cut norms. Very good laws and everything is there, but nobody knows about it. Nobody, when you reach to these police stations, they will never file these complaints against these sections. And that is the problem. So I think I consider this as a separate problem. There are two different kinds of cyber issues. One, the issues those are faced by corporates, organizations, companies, manufacturing companies. The second, those are faced by these common public and person. We are definitely not there to handle the crimes those are happening against these common men because of the limited resources, because of the police force is not equipped with those tools and technologies and capabilities. So these are issues. These are the issues that are there. They'll be there, and it will take time to resolve those issues. But if I consider the other side of it, we can definitely handle the security of corporates, infrastructures, and all these things. And I'm sure like the experts that we have, they all are expert in those areas. And the issues those are being taken care by tackling the human vulnerabilities, especially these crimes those are happening. I don't consider them cyber attacks. If somebody is Paytm, there is a Paytm fraud or OLX fraud or Ola fraud or any such kind of different kind of crimes happening, and all luring activities that they send on through SMS and WhatsApp messages, and they ask people to provide their details. They are not cyber attacks. They are frauds. They are cyber frauds. So and they don't use any technology, they are not equipped with smart hacking capabilities. No, they are just trying to build the trust with you and breach that trust and gather some information out of it.
They just play with you.
That is something which will always be there. That has been happening since years. So my point is, let's keep these two things separate, because though there is a hint of exploiting human vulnerabilities for corporate issues as well, but then the kind of issues that India has for internal people, I think that is something which can't be solved through one such quick solution. It will take time, it will evolve, but we can definitely take care of the securities at the corporate side with such better handling of cyber hygiene, or at least those people that are working in those servers, training them, providing them the techniques, spiritual techniques, so that they can balance their calm, growth, low, more, bhaya, anka, and then they can handle our systems.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
Well said. So, friends, we've had a great conversation, a great discussion. I think a very useful, productive, which can be fully applied during this lockdown, partial unlockdown. So, Sethi sir, one last closing remark from your side before we wrap up the conversation.
I'll just say that for each organization, data today is kind of the biggest competitive advantage that organization. And the sources of data increasing, it's not within the boundaries of the organization, but products and other things, various places. So if each user can really ensure that he or she takes care of the data as he or she takes care of his or her personal money, I think we'll be secure. Most of the times we think that data, who cares about data? But for us, if I have 10 rupees in my pocket, I'll look at that for 10 times before I. So if we can do that, and if we can reverse, the second piece I'll say, if we can reverse our thought process and start with people, process, technology, I think it will be a slightly safer world.
Great. Well said, Sethi sir. And they put time in a better way to summarize that people first, and we have to take data as the currency. It is the new currency. And we know the reason why Reliance came into telecom and they have Geo, because data is the new oil.
Absolutely.
So, Jerry sir, thank you very much for logging in again. And let's take this opportunity, friends, for thanking Jerry sir for helping us organize and coordinate this beautiful session. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for taking out a time and participating in this discussion. Thanks a ton to everyone. Thank you.
We were not able to go live because of a technical issue, which is so symbolic and ironic of the topic given. But we will surely put this on WAF TV and on Facebook. And right now, I promise you 100K views in 125 countries across World Order Forum. That's our promise to you.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
See you.
Parna. Thanks,
Bye.
Amit.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vijay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Anuj.
Thank you, sir.
Nice session. Thanks a lot.